Hello, OddsChecker Nation. We are back recapping the Sweet 16 and looking ahead at the Final Four. You guys, I am losing it. Absolute madness. We're going to talk about your amazing picks last week. But just to get you started, I'm Jamie Kelton here with Drew Martin and Adam Trigger again. But something first, before we get into our guys' analysis, oddschecker.com/US wants to pay you for doing what you're already doing, which we absolutely love. We have 2 videos left for you for this NCAA March Madness, and we're giving away $100 in DraftKings vouchers for each video. So all you have to do to be entered to win is like this video on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and reply in the comments with your best bet of the day. Go ahead and do that on this video and our championship video coming to you early next week. But guys, we had a lot of games over the weekend. Let's recap. Your picks, again, were absolute fire. 3-1 from the picks we gave our OddsChecker viewers last week. What were your takeaways from the Sweet 16, and who was the biggest loser?
Well, Jamie, I think the biggest loser for me has to be, Alabama has to be the biggest loser for me, because the free throw shooting was atrocious, and that game was right there for them to win. I last week I gave out Baylor and Michigan on our video. Both of them won. I wish that form extended to the picks that I actually settled on later in the week, which did not do as well. But as far as our video last week, I had Baylor minus the points, and it got there. Michigan blew out Florida State. And I think, for the most part, the teams that we discussed ended up making the Final Four: Baylor, Gonzaga, Houston, with the lone surprise being UCLA, which I certainly didn't get to see getting there. And I'll let Drew comment on that as well.
Yeah, no, Adam, hats off to you, man, on calling it like you did, hitting those winners. I would say, Jamie, takeaways from Sweet 16 would be, actually, I would point towards the totals, Jamie, in the lack of scoring here at Lucas Oil Stadium. I believe in regulation, unders were 7-1 in the 8 games of the Sweet 16. So really the game's falling below the posted total. In terms of sidewise, I would say Florida State in the Sweet 16, their performance against Michigan, very lackluster, not up to their standards. So sidewise, I would say Florida State kind of discouraging, and just the lack of scoring, something we can use going forward, because it's going to be the same venue. And depending which game we're going to talk about here in the Final Four, some of these teams not necessarily looking to go with a lot of pace up and down the court, Jamie.
Interesting. Yeah, that, and it was almost 8-0 under until that buzzer beater shot by Alex Reese in the Alabama game. Man, did you guys see the Barstool Sports video when they lost it when the over hit? That was hilarious. So I'm sure a lot of people were celebrating all over the country with that one, if you guys had the over in the Bama UCLA game. But we only have 3 games left. Hard to believe. But let's start first with our first game on Saturday. Houston and Baylor at random tip-off of 5:14 p.m. Standard Time. But we have Baylor -5. I know we talked about that might change. But, Drew, let's get your insight into this game, and if you have any best bets for them.
Okay, throw it all out at once, sure. Houston and Baylor is a great matchup. Obviously, 2 top seeds here making it all the way through. We don't have any kind of like Cinderella-esque route to make it to the Final Four. I guess you could say Houston, not too many people had them, but still coming from the AAC, dominating in conference. You can just see with their straight up record, Jamie, 28-3. Now you can point to kind of strength of schedule here, because a lot of people before the season, before the tournament started, Jamie, if you remember around, Selection Sunday, the AAC is down in terms of basketball talent this season. That's what a lot of people were saying. I don't know how true that is, because, something I know Adam and I have talked about, the NIT, I think you can carry over some of the performances in the NIT, which is a lesser tournament here if you're new to college basketball and betting college basketball. And we saw Memphis make a run in the NIT. They look strong. We've seen Houston now make a run, kind of knock off some teams that maybe some people think they shouldn't have. Look strong against Syracuse, strong against Oregon State and Rutgers, being able to beat the Scarlet Knights there. Now they're going up against Baylor, which, heck, throughout the most of the season, people probably had Baylor ranked right behind Gonzaga in terms of power ratings, Gonzaga being number 1, Baylor being number 2 until they went on the COVID pause. And then coming back from the COVID pause, maybe not looking as strong, but now Baylor back to kind of their top selves here in terms of power rankings, sitting at 26-2. There are only 2 losses to Kansas and Oklahoma State running through the tournament here. And their win against Arkansas, Jamie, one of the more impressive wins of the tournament, in my view, just because I thought Arkansas, the Razorbacks, one of the stronger teams, under Musselman and the way that they were playing here in March. So sidewise, I think this is kind of a tough one. I wouldn't be surprised to see Baylor take some money here and Baylor come out on top of this. It's just a matter of laying points to Houston is something I'm not too interested in personally. I'm going more after this, Jamie, because you're asking about best bets here. On the under. Both of these two teams, neither one is really going to look to go too up tempo. Baylor at times will, but I actually think Houston, a 300 team in terms of tempo, actually one of the slower teams in the country. They want to hold the ball. They want to control the pace up and down the court. They play great defense. One of the best defensive teams in the whole country left in this tournament. Really a lot of good defense left in this tournament, but top 10 defensive efficiency. This Houston team does hit their free throws. And just the way that this game is going to be called, the refs calling the game, Houston going up against Oregon State, and the way that they were able to rebound the basketball, if the refs let them kind of play a little bit more rugged, a little bit more tough man basketball down low, if it goes like that, Houston's got a chance here because those kids are athletic. They can rebound the ball. If the over the back penalty is not called that much, which it wasn't against Oregon State, I think that Houston is going to have a lot of success here. And being able to slow down the tempo, playing in Lucas Oil Stadium, where the shooting percentages have been down from three-point land, especially. And I just think this total at 135 with the limited possessions, Jamie, I don't think we get there. So I like the under in the Houston Baylor game as my best bet.
I love that. Okay, can I ask you a question really quick? What do you think is attributing to the low 3-point shooting just being in Lucas Oil Stadium? That's such an interesting fact to me.
Well, I mean, just at the glimpse view, it would be, Lucas Oil Stadium is a football stadium, and they're putting the basketball court on the football, in the football stadium. So therefore, the depth perception behind the basketball, behind the rim in the backboard is further. There's more space back there. So shooting the 3-point shot, a lot of these kids, don't practice that all season. They're playing in their normal, like at Alabama, it's a basketball stadium. Therefore, there's not that much room behind the rim. Now there is. So the depth perception there, that's the first thing I would point to. Another thing I would point to that a lot of people aren't talking about is the way these games are being called. They're letting them play a little bit more. And therefore, you're getting less stoppages and less free throw attempts. So there's the clock is running more, and that's why unders are hitting at a higher rate as well. That's what I would throw in. But the first thing, Jamie, to answer the question would be the depth perception behind the backboard.
I'll add one more thing to what Drew just said. Because I agree with both of those. But it's not uncommon to have these big Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Fours in a football stadium venue, similar to what they have set up at Lucas Oil. But there's no fans really. It's the building is 25% full at most, and normally at this juncture, every seat in the house is full. So the crowded whatever they have set up, what you want to call it, an arena or playing area, at least the backdrop is usually full with fans, which is I think sort of offset some of that cavernous feel that the players are probably feeling when they're out on the court now. The fans that are there are set quite a ways back from the court as it is. So I think for sure there's a bit of an open feel, and I know that can really affect a jump shot or sight lines, what have you. So I think that probably attributes to it as well.
No, I think that's so interesting, and that's going to give a lot of our viewers a lot more confidence in Drew Your Best Bet and taking the under there. I mean, the games prove it, and so do those facts. So thanks for sharing that with us. That's super interesting. Adam, what about you? What are your thoughts on Houston and Baylor on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I agree with Drew's breakdown was phenomenal. So I'm not going to rehash a lot of that, but I will say my best bet that I have right now to give out on this show is going to be Baylor again. And I agree with Drew. If you want to bet Baylor, I think you should grab -5 because my feeling is it's probably going to trend towards 6. I already see a couple 5.5s and a couple 5s with some extra juice. So Baylor -5 and grab it right now because it's probably going to move up. I don't think the AAC being down is as big of a deal as it's being made out to be, and I think that's something Drew touched on as well. But Houston's played one team in the top 30 at Ken Pom all year. It was Texas Tech. It was way back early in the season. So this is going to be the best team they've faced this year. And I think it's safe to say after the Arkansas game that Baylor is the number 2 team now. I know they had a little bit of a lull when they came out of COVID, but that team that played against Arkansas the other night, they look every bit the Baylor that we saw early in the season, in my opinion. And Houston did get by Rutgers, but Houston was down 9 with about 4 minutes to play in that game. And I really felt like Rutgers let them off the hook. And Houston had a huge lead against Oregon State, and the Beavers came all the way back to tie it. And the lulls in scoring that we've seen in those couple games probably speak to Drew's under a bit, that Houston team is prone to, not scoring for stretches at a time. And I don't think that's going to work out against Baylor. They're playing at a high level at this point, and I just think that they're not going to allow Houston to sort of have a 5-6 minute drought and stay in the game. Their offense was super efficient in the second half against Villanova to overturn a deficit and blow Villanova out. And again, I really felt like I know Arkansas made a run in that game earlier in the week, but to me, watching that Baylor team, I fully expect them to win this game. And I think the number at -5, I think it's reasonable to think that they'll win it by that margin at least.
All right, there we go. We have one for the under and one for the points. Let's move over to UCLA and Gonzaga. Guys, this game for me is like the strongest talent versus the strongest mental toughness, right? So which side are you going to play? You're going to play the talent, or you're going to play the emotion? But this is actually UCLA's first Final Four appearance since 2008. But if you can believe it, they are second highest in Final Four appearances, right under North Carolina. Now they're edging out Kentucky now 18-17. And another fun fact, UCLA is only the 6th double-digit seed to reach the Final Four ever. However, 4 out of those 6 have all been 11 seeds. Interessante. But we have Gonzaga -14 here. Let's break down this game. Drew, we'll start with you.
Sure, Jamie. I mean, great stats there. I didn't know that. And you really got to tip your cap to UCLA being able to make this run that they have. I mean, Michigan State in the first 4 is keep in mind they had to play an extra game than a lot of these teams in just the first round here. They had to play in a first 4 game against Michigan State. I thought they got a little bit of an easy kind of road here against BYU and Abilene Christian, but then it started to step up in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. They played your Alabama team, Jamie, and then Michigan, looking strong in both, going head-to-head against Michigan, winning a low-scoring kind of draw-out defensive battle. You kind of like to see that. If you want to look for pluses for UCLA, it's one, strength of schedule. They have played a much more difficult schedule than Gonzaga to get to this point in the season. They're also a slower tempo team. Similar to breaking down Houston here, UCLA has that kind of mindset. We want to hold the ball. We want to control the tempo in these games. Sure enough, we just saw against Michigan. There was less than 60 possessions in that game, and they won 51-49. They're fine winning that way against Gonzaga here. They knocked down their free throws, well coached. We just saw it last night with Mick Cronin, and their talent, being able to have, I would say, next level talent on your team in the Final Four. I want to be betting on those kind of guys. I think Jusag and company will have a chance here to be playing in the association. Going up against Gonzaga, though, Jamie, this is just not the type of profile I look to kind of step in front of. Meaning, Gonzaga is going to, at the end of this, if they do win the national championship, we're going to be talking about Gonzaga as, is this the best team ever? I mean, they're going to run the table here, winning all of their games at 32-0. It's only been done once before. So stepping in front of that. What's that?
46 years ago.
Is that what it was? And was it UCLA?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
We talked about this on our other video.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, no need to answer that question. Stupid question anyway. We got Gonzaga here, who's going to look to go up and down the court here. Obviously well coached as well. Next level talent, yes. It's just the point spread with Gonzaga is something that you really got to bring in. 2 touchdowns. Are they really going to cover that? They got to blow out UCLA in order to cover this spread, Jamie. And that's not something I'm ready to bet. I don't like laying doubles here in the Final Four against a team that's hot, covering numbers, and playing at a much different tempo. Meaning, who controls this tempo? Is this up and down the court? All right, maybe I'll lay it here with Gonzaga. If it's not, I actually want the points, because if this is anywhere near 60 possessions, which I don't think it will be, but we could get a 65 possession game, you're going to have to cover 14 points. I don't know if I like that type of profile of bet, Jamie. So if you make me bet it, I would take the Bruins, although I haven't personally bet this game yet.
Yeah, I got to agree with Drew. I don't have a huge feel for this one just yet. But I think the only way I could look is taking the point. Gonzaga is really overheating in terms of the value at this point, having to lay a premium number to back them. And the other thing I'll add to what Drew said is, I know Gonzaga is blowing teams out, but I really felt like Creighton and USC both played poorly. And I think that sort of exacerbated the margin of victory a little bit. So it's not to take away anything from Gonzaga, but Creighton went 5 for 21 from 3 in the game the other day, the Sweet 16 game. They lost by 18. The number was 13. A couple of those fall, and you could have Creighton land within the number. And USC last night really just didn't play well at all. No toughness on defense. I really felt like they just let Gonzaga do whatever they wanted offensively. And it really goes back to what Drew was saying. UCLA, they do profile as a team that is becoming mentally tough, sort of the us against the world mentality. They had to play the extra game. I believe it's the first time we've had a team from the first 4 make the Final Four since VCU did it. Probably close to 10 years ago when they expanded the field to 68. So I can't look anywhere but the points. I don't know if I'll get to the window with it, but it seems like a big number. UCLA is going to slow it down. So I would have to say UCLA plus the points are nothing for me in this one.
I like UCLA plus the points too, but here's something to note, right? Gonzaga, 29 out of the 30 games that they played this year, has won by 10 or more points. So you have a small window there between 10 and 14. I don't think UCLA is going to give up. I think you've seen in all of the games, even when they've got down by 8 or 10 points, they battled their way right back in. The end of the Alabama game, that 3-point half-court shot should have been a complete demoralizer, but it wasn't at all. It almost gave them more fire. So I don't think we're going to see UCLA really back down here. But I agree that 14 number is pretty big, although I think it might be 10 or 11. And that's it. That's it, you guys. I wish we had more to talk about. But everyone watching, please check out the link below as we've put together the very best of March Madness promos and content and analysis around. And we will see you in just a few days for the championship game for oddschecker.com/US. I'm Jamie Kelton here with Drew Martin and Adam Trigger, and we will see you for the big one. Bye.